Hello again, this is Victor James, author of that new book in the megacosm called The Narikomin that's available wherever books are sold, so get your copy now. Now I can admit that out of the sprawling Rocky movie series that ran from 1976 to 1990, Rocky V is the weakest entry of them all. Following a Rocky IV that was not only critically acclaimed, but told a political story during the height of the Cold War that pitted America against its Soviet enemies and shocked audiences with the death of a fan favorite Apollo Creed, Rocky V was supposed to be the culmination of America's hero living happily ever after. However, we didn't get that from Rocky V. Subverting expectations, Rocky V saw Rocky land on hard times after a battle that left him mentally and physically scarred. So first, let's go over why people dislike Rocky V the most out of the series. Rocky IV culminated in an epic battle against a monstrous and roided up Ivan Drago. Rocky miraculously pulled out an unexpected win that not only avenged Apollo's death, but took heart and embodied America's never say die attitude. It was honestly truly inspiring for those of us still under nuclear danger during the end of the Cold War. However, Rocky did not come out unscathed. The beating he took from Ivan Drago should have killed him. Instead, it left him punchy, with brain injuries that meant he could no longer fight for a living. And if that news wasn't bad enough, we also learned that Rocky's leech of her brother-in-law, Paulie, had Rocky sign a document that gave his crook accountant power of attorney. While Rocky was busy in Russia focusing on carrying the weight of America on his shoulders, his scumbag accountant thought he could flip his money for a big score, and no one would notice his crimes. However, you don't become a gambling accountant by being good at it. The accountant lost all of Rocky's fortune, sending him and his family back to the streets we saw him fight his way out to escape. And fans hated it. Shoot, I hated it. It was like the anti-American dream. The man who took the fight to the commies was forced back into the gutter he fought to leave. It was almost a slap in the face to everyone who saw a version of themselves in Rocky's ascent. Instead of being rewarded for his hard work, he was left penniless, working at the crummy gym he started at and with crippling brain damage. It just tore down the legend fans had come to love and respect. Rocky epitomized the American dream and was an American icon, and he was broken down for no apparent reason. Now, with all that said, I understand the outrage and share in it to some extent, but I still like Rocky for what it was trying to do. But before I go into the reasons why I actually like Rocky V, there's one thing I need to get off my chest. One thing I truly hate about this movie, and I will never change my mind, is the god-awful music. Nothing is worse than rap, and it's even worse when it's unlicensed movie rap from scrubs who could never make it in the mainstream. The rap music throughout this movie is some of the worst you will ever torture your ears with, and I have no idea what Stallone was thinking using it compared to the awesome music in the previous 4 movies. Especially coming off Rocky IV, which had the classic soundtrack from the criminally underrated Vince DiCola. But okay, with that rant over, Rocky V was supposed to be the return to the roots of the franchise. Through Rocky III and IV, it moved from the gritty streets and struggles of a boxer and his family to showbiz fight with Clubber Lang, robot butlers, mansions, and fights against super soldier Russians. In his own words, Stallone was attempting to bring the franchise back to '79, back to family and the American struggle. This is why his son, Sage, was cast in the movie as his son Robert, and why his film focuses on Tommy Gunn as the fighter. Tommy Gunn was a Rocky 79 stand-in, who came from a broken home just like Rocky, and fought similar to Rocky. And honestly, the more I watch Rocky V, the more I appreciate Tommy Morrison's performance. Morrison was a real-life boxer Stallone chose to bring realism to the film. It was his first movie ever, and you can tell, but he did a decent job portraying a street-tough boxer who was hungry to rise to the top of the boxing industry by any means. I felt Morrison did a good job portraying Tommy Gunn as a deceptively selfish fighter who purposely drove a wedge between Rocky and his son while taking advantage of Rocky's desire to return his family to Providence through Tommy's rise. Yet, as the two worked together, the in-universe media showered Tommy Gunn with disrespect, calling Tommy Rocky's twin and Rocky's robot. No man, especially a fighter, would take kindly to that level of disrespect. And while all this was going on, Tommy was being enticed by a Don King stand-in named George Washington Duke, with fame, riches, women, and a shot at the title, something Rocky constantly told Tommy he was not ready for. And you know what, now that I think about it, this was another aspect of the film people really disliked, as Richard Gant played Duke rather over the top, like he was a caricature and not a real person. Looking back, it really was a bad performance, and now that I'm thinking about it again, it kind of makes me feel like I dislike this movie all over again. But let's push Gant's performance aside, because Duke was actually able to poison Tommy against Rocky, and I always felt like their breakup scene was pretty strong, as Tommy proved he was anything like Rocky.
Don't sell out, don't. We don't need this guy.
Listen, Duke is a wonderful man. Put the top on.
Hey, forget about the top, would you?
I'm signing papers with the man tomorrow.
Oh, listen to me, Tommy. You sign them papers, you're like his property, so you got no control. You know, this is a dirty business. It's full of these thieves and gangsters, you know, and they promise every good young fighter who comes along, they promise them the world, and they suck them dry, and they leave them when they ain't worth nothing. They leave them in the gutter broke, Tommy. That's the way this business is run. Look, guys like Duke, you know what he is? He's a vampire. He's living off your blood, Tommy. You know, the thing I'm trying to do is what Mick done to me. He tried to keep me away from the dirty part of the business. The way I'm trying to do for you.
Man, I ain't you, and you ain't Mick. Man, when are you gonna understand that? When are you gonna understand this is a business? And a business you need...
What, brains?
You said that, not me.
Is that what you're saying? You're saying I got no brains?
Look, Rocky, you took me as far as you could, but Duke gave me my title shot. You didn't. And if you want to keep training me, then do it. But if you don't, don't. But it's my way or it's the highway.
To me, this scene actually made the Legend of Rocky stronger, as more fighters and celebrities are closer to Tommy Gunn than Rocky. It proved why Rocky, who was a religious and family man, was a one-of-a-kind icon, and it also displayed why Adrian was one of the best wives in film history. Once again, Adrian was able to piece Rocky back together after his world and dreams were shattered, and eventually made their family stronger. And this was Stallone's intention all along, to make the Balboa family the legacy of Rocky's struggles. And looking back, I also think Morrison put on another good scene when Duke finally convinces Tommy to fight Rocky. After the media hounded Gunn for his split with Rocky and his subpar opponent in the title fight, Tommy was furious at the level of disrespect, and Duke played on that emotion. The movie culminated in Tommy calling out Rocky, punching Paulie in the face, and getting into a street fight. The fight was another aspect people hated about this movie. After 4 installments, fans expected to see a grand boxing match at the end where Rocky finally gets his redemption, earns a decent payday, and takes his family out of the slums. But again, Stallone went the opposite direction, and the reason the fight felt so disjointed was that Rocky was originally supposed to die at the end, and his spirit would live on in his son, who was trained as a fighter throughout the movie. But the United Artists execs felt that Rocky was just too iconic to die in a gritty street fight, which forced Stallone to rewrite the ending at the last minute. And this can be felt with the final fight that was disjointed and disappointing even though Rocky was victorious. But it did give us that one classic Mickey line urging Rocky to go on one more round.
Good attempt. Now get up one more round. Get up. Don't lay it down. Fight this guy hard.
Come on! Come on!
He's no machine. I didn't hear no bell. Get up, you son of a bitch. Mickey loves you.
Also, the fight would have been better if it didn't have that awful rap hip-hop music over the end of it, but I digress. Overall, despite all his flaws, I still like Rocky V. I have no problem playing the entire series from beginning to end, because at least Rocky V ends on a happy note. Plus, for anyone who follows boxing at all, is the story really that far-fetched? A boxer gains fame and fortune but ends his career destitute and with brain damage. We've never heard that story before? I mean, we could look at Floyd Mayweather now, who earned over $1 billion during the course of his career, being forced to fight again at the age of 45 after becoming basically bankrupt. And we've seen other boxers suffer from brain injury as they age, so Rocky told a real story about how boxers end their lives usually. The only problem was the poor execution. I think if given the chance again, Stallone would still go down that route of bringing Rocky back to the streets, but I know for sure he wouldn't write it the same way. In fact, Balboa was the makeup movie for Rocky V that was more in the vein of the 70s original. But that doesn't make me like Rocky V any less, and it's still a guilty pleasure movie of mine that I pop in from time to time. But you tell me in the comments below, has time made you like Rocky V any more or any less? And I wanted to remind you about my website, themegacosm.com. Here you can keep up with the latest information about the Megacosm, as well as read short stories for free. As an added bonus, I have the first chapters of my novels for free as well, just so you can read a sample and decide later if you want to buy the novel. I also have links to the articles I write for Bleeding Fool, and I have recently launched a Megacosm merch store with t-shirts that feature the Fiasco logo as well as my publishing imprint. And I also have baby onesies because, well, they just look cool cosplaying as Fiasco. But God bless you and keep you. That's it, I'm done.